Okay, so something's happened since we last met. Anybody know? Like what happened on the calendar?
Oh, the quarter.
Yes,
Quarter.
yes. Ding, 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 ding. Kay wins the water. Okay, so that's a big deal because we have traveled through some months here and we're starting a second quarter. So I was thinking, when I was thinking about, well, we've been talking about, business your way, all the different things we've been talking about with Jose, but it's also a time when you go back and you say, okay, we did finish the first quarter. And I think one of the things you've got to do, and you almost have to force yourself into a hard stop and say, what happened? What happened? What did I do? And am I 25% there to where I want to be, to what I kind of had planned to be? Am I more than that? Or did some things work and some things didn't work and I didn't get to exactly where I wanted? You can look at the list. We've got the list of how everybody did the first quarter. Some people blew it out. Some people kind of did what they did last year and some people didn't. So I think what you've got to do, and if anybody's been watching any of the Final Four of the NCAA tournament, there's some similarities that go on when you look at these sporting events. So like a team gets running really hard on another team, right? What's the coach do? What's the other coach do? I mean, all of a sudden the team goes up by 10 points on the other team. What's the other coach do? Yeah, it's called timeout. Slow this thing down. Good Lord, what's going on? This isn't anything that we planned. Okay, so in sports, you get the opportunity to have timeouts. You have the opportunity to have a halftime, to say, okay, let's huddle up. Okay, that didn't really work the way we wanted to, or this really worked and we need to do more of that. But it's actually set up that way. Coach, you get so many timeouts. Lynn, you get so many timeouts, and then you figure it out. But there's some things that happen inside the game that you're managing, like, who do I foul? Who can shoot free throws? Who's a good three-point shooter? Who's turnover prone? Who blocks shots? Who double dribbles? Who walks? Who gets all these turnovers? You actually know these things before you go in the game, and then you evaluate that game as it's happening. It's not like you stop and say, okay, this is our game plan. Game on, let the clock run. No, you're managing that game as it's happening. You can see these coaches sweating it out and the players sweating it out and then regrouping as the game's going on. So that's where we're at right now. We're in the game and we just finished the first quarter. So let's look at some stuff, because when we say look at the first quarter, I want to talk today about how do we reverse engineer in that and really look at it. Are we really looking at our scoreboard, or are we just saying, yeah, I kind of know what I did? Yeah, some things went good, some things didn't. No, really, let's talk and look about what do we need to look at? Like, what are the numbers that actually are the money numbers? What's the activity that actually needs to happen for me to get to where I want to go, to what I have on plan? So I'm going to try to pull this up because Kristen has left me on my own here. So
Uh-oh.
I'm going to share this screen. Okay, there we go.
I'm here. Did you get it?
Yeah, I got it. Did you hear me talking about it?
I did.
All right.
She felt it too.
She did. She felt it. Okay, so we're talking about evaluating your numbers. How? How are we going to do that? Why can't I see everybody else? Let's do that. That's more fun. Okay. Like I said, are you 25% accomplished? Did you go past 25%? Are you a little less than 25%? So let's look at the numbers. These are numbers that you need to be looking at to figure out where you are in the game. Remember what I was talking about, how many fouls did we get? Does Kay have 3 fouls? Can she even play the rest of the half? Or does she have to sit? You have to look at this to make sure that you're going to be able to play the game. Okay, calls made. I'm sure that you probably have in the back of your mind, how many calls and people do I need to talk to? Conversations do I need to have a day? In and out of your sphere of influence, but how many of those people make a difference in my world daily so that I know that I'm staying on plan? And any more conversations can also mean text messages, video, email, text, email, or text, video. There's all kinds of different ways to communicate. Going into Facebook, going into social media, Instagram, making comments, getting comments back, getting engagement. There's all kinds of different ways to look at that. Sending a personal note, like Len talks about. How many of those things are happening? Emails and letters sent. How many did you send out? How many? And these are just things that you're looking at. Appointments booked, sales volume, GCI, and then what you want to do, go back through your calendar to see what you actually did. So these are things like, okay, I think I made about 10 calls a day. Well, actually go back and look and see if you're tracking that. See if you actually have your scoreboard on daily to be able to know what you did. Conversations had. See if you actually track that. And I'm going to go into that today because I'm going to talk about shadowing. So if you're not doing that, if you don't track yourself and have a scoreboard on, I think you should. And we've talked about this before, and I know I'm going back to the sports stuff, but that's just, I've always thought of sales kind of like sports. And I think that's kind of why I like sales, is when I got into it at an early age, it felt comfortable to me because it felt more familiar, because it really, you do have a scoreboard. How many people do I get in front of? How many people do I close? How many people can I talk to? And you actually have things that you can score yourself with. We need to be doing that. And if we're not doing that, it's not too late to do it because we're only just done the first quarter. So this isn't a scare meeting. This is just, if you're not doing it, start doing it because it will actually affect your business. Okay, so how do I flip this? I do it right. Here we go. Okay. I'm getting good now. Now we're on it. Okay. Bring this down. Okay. Now, what do we want to do when we're looking at these numbers and the scoreboard? We want to look at, okay, what's working? We're talking about first quarter here. We're talking about reversing into looking at our numbers. What's working? What didn't work? Very similar to a game when you go into halftime. How are we going to win the game? What worked? What didn't work? What adjustments do we need to make? Game's not over. We're just evaluating so we can make ourselves better. Okay, so what are some of the things that we need to look at? Because if you're falling behind on these goals, you got to trace back to why, right? And they do tell a story when you trace them back. Okay, so you look at your marketing plan. Does everybody pretty much think that, let's pull this back up. Does everybody pretty much think that you've got a marketing plan? Like a, Sean, what do you think? You're kind of going back and forth. Can you unmute, Sean?
Yeah, there we go. I mean, in my head, there's a marketing plan, but it's not written down, and I think that would help if I wrote it down and stuck to a definite plan. So that's why I was kind of like, well, there's a plan, but it's not on paper. And
it's good because we're going to get into that, Sean. That's what that's the answer I was looking for, because there's nothing wrong with that. Because 98% of us work that way. I've got it in my head. But we need to be working by design, not by memory, because memory can catch up to us all the time by things you leave out because it's not in front of you in the way that you want it to be. You think it's there, you feel like it's there, but you don't know for sure it's there because you might have missed some things. What about Neil? I know you've been working on stuff. How close do you feel like you're at as far as putting things in play? Talking to the professionals here.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
How do you feel like where you're at? Because you and I have been talking. How do you feel like you're getting through your first quarter, getting things into play?
Just at a slow speed. I'm moving in the right direction. It just seems like
You
it
are.
takes me a long time
Well,
to
and
get there.
for those who know Neil, he's a perfectionist, so we have to talk him down off that.
Yeah.
We have to talk him off of perfection, because sometimes done's good. And, perfection is a great thing, but it's so hard to get to and it takes a long time. But you can do a lot of done things and get closer to perfection. Joe, you got a lot of things going on.
Well, it's just starting, but yeah, I write down a weekly plan. So every Sunday I write down the weekly plan for what I want to get done the next week. So a 7-day plan, and I do keep that in a binder. The only problem is I've noticed as I'm getting busier and I'm running more and I'm driving more,
Yeah.
I'm getting less of that actually completed. So
Yeah.
I-
Well,
I need to work
here's
on
the
that.
thing. Okay, here's the thing about that, because I really like that approach of taking in and really thinking about, okay, what do I need to do next week? And then it's good to have that daily too. What do I need to do today? Like I always, Neil and I have had this conversation. What are the 3 big things I need to do today? I mean, there's a ton of things I have to do probably, but what are the 3 most important things I need to get done so that I feel like it gives me a little bit of a endorphin rush that I got that done? That was a big thing. The things that we probably need to get done, we don't want to do. So I also encourage people to try to do that in the morning. So it gives you that afternoon good feel. You kind of get on your own high. What is it? Eat the frog in the morning?
Just write
Yeah.
that out. Eat that frog.
Eat the frog in the morning, yeah.
Get all that stuff that you don't like
Yeah.
to do.
Is that like a shit sandwich? Frogs. Okay, we'll go with frogs. We'll stay with frogs.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's look back at these again. What are some things that are working, some of the things that aren't working? So marketing plan. Actually, you can look at open rates on emails. You can look at your social media that has an analytics on it. I didn't know that until I started getting into some of the social stuff, but you can actually look at your social media and click on a button on your account, and it'll give you your analytics of how you do when you post. It'll also show which ones do better, what you got the most engagement with. That's really what you're wanting. You're wanting engagement when you post something. Check those things out. At least check that out weekly, because you don't want to keep posting things not knowing. It's kind of like working in the dark and not turning the lights on. You want to know numbers, and they will give you numbers. The other thing I'll tell you that you should probably do on social media is go and look at, and one of the easier places to do this is not on Instagram. You can go on Instagram and find hashtags that you have in your world, like we follow real estate, and go into those hashtags and see which one of those posts are performing better. Have like 6 or 7 hashtags that's your world, that you are. And then you can pull in there and go hashtag real estate, hashtag mindset, hashtag determination, hashtag sales all over, hashtag whatever. Those will come up, and it'll tell you like there's 5.2 million of these, or there's 100,000 of these. All you do is you go up and you hit that search and you put your hashtag in, and you can see real estate type or just posts that you like that are performing well. And then you can kind of craft your own post that looks a lot like that one. A lot like it, because there's no laws against it, because it can be almost like it. That's the great thing about social media. You can also do the same thing on YouTube. You can go and look at the search that you're most interested in on a search, and it'll show you how many views there are, and you can create something that looks like that. Does that make sense? Okay, so your networking plan. This is another thing we want to look at. This is more of what was your plan on getting involved with certain groups or getting involved with community things. Are you doing what you said you were gonna do, or is that just something that fell off to the side and we need to re-engage that? Do they see you in these groups as the person, as the go-to person? If I've got a house for sale, I'm gonna go talk to Lynn, because I just saw her for happy hour, and we do this every week, and I really like Lynn now. That's why you want to do those type of things. You want to plug yourself into those type of events of people you want to socialize or be a part of, who has similar interests, that know you're, I'm just thinking right now, Kay, the trivia night thing that you had.
Yes.
That is a thing. You got, there was a whole bunch of people, and I'm sure everybody there knows Kay is also a real estate agent besides being a really nice person. So they connect those dots. What's up, Jose?
What's up, guys? Sorry about that. I got stuck on a call.
So we're going through and looking at how we reverse engineer, looking at Q1 to try to get Q2 to be more what we want it to be. So networking plan. Are we on our networking plan, or do we need to get back on that horse? Because that's a good thing to be looking at, and you can go back and look at. Follow-up plan. Do we have one? Talking about past clients. Are you making calls? Matched against whatever you have, and if you don't have it, this is a good time to start making it. How many of those calls do you have planned to make a day as far as contacts? And we're talking about tax, we're talking about engagement, social media. We're just talking about what is your follow-up plan? Are you making that happen? Are you sending out? Do you have a plan to send out real estate reviews? I said Jared Jones, that's Jared James. I'm not sure if I did. Yeah, let's just change his name to Jared Jones.
Okay.
Let's go with it. But sending out the real estate reviews, we actually have a Jared James plan. If you guys don't have one, borrow his. His is really good. It's a good plan, and you can just insert it right in. And it's a follow-up plan because you can actually follow up once you send that out on EDDM. Let's see, and personalizing your content. Okay, so nurturing your plan. How responsive are you being with these leads? Are you sending these things out, and then are you following up? What are you doing to build these relationships once you send it out? This is one of the things that Jared James, if you look at what his system is, he's got a whole system in there that, okay, I send it out, and then I got a script. Send it out, and I follow up with that. I send it out, and here's the other script. So if you don't have one, I've been a big proponent of the fact, borrow his. It's good. It's all set right there. If you're looking to conquer a neighborhood, set yourself up to be notified when something goes up for sale in that neighborhood, and blanket it. Tell everybody that this might have changed the value of their home, and then follow up with them. Conversion rate. Going back to scoreboard here, guys. Do we know it? Do we know what our conversion rates are? Because, you know, if you know your conversion rate, it'll tell you what's really working good for you and what might not be working so good. So if you're falling short, if you actually start looking at your conversion rate, you can say, okay, what's happening here? What do I need to work on? I'm talking about conversion rates on, there's conversion rates on everything all the way through. You know, how many people show up to your buyer consult? How many people do you convert once you have a listing appointment? How many people do you convert once you show them houses and you convert them to a contract? All those different things that you do, how, you know, from a phone call contact to a client, all these things are conversion rates. And if you know, hey, I'm 80% good at that, or I'm 57% good at that, those are then numbers that you can work with and play with and say, okay, now I'm 62% better at it. I'm 80% better. You can start working and keeping score, just like we were talking when we got started. That's why the basketball tournament has a scoreboard. You can actually watch the game and see where you need to make adjustments so you can either win the game or evaluate to make the adjustments. Who do I foul at the end of the game? Well, I foul Jose because he can't hit free throws. He can't shoot a three, so I'm gonna hit him in the head right now because I want him at the free throw line until the game gets tied. So conversion rates, knowing your numbers so that you can react to your numbers, so that you feel more consistent in your plan. Does that make sense? Yeah. How many people think you can work on finding more about your conversion numbers? Yeah, I think we all, I mean, here's the thing. And I say this all the time, I've said it for years. We aren't any good at this, salespeople, because we're really good at selling. There's nothing wrong with that. That's why we need to put it into a plan. That's why we need to have a system, because the system forces us really good salespeople to be able to look off something and say, oh, okay, I like that. I'm competitive. Now I know what the numbers are. I can beat them. That's why you have the numbers. It's not because you're good at conversion. I love tracking conversion rates. Hell no. Nobody likes that if you're a good salesman. You like looking at the numbers is what you like looking at. Okay, so I'm 62% on my buyer consult to conversion to, no, I can get better at that. I can be 72%. But you got to have that number as a competitive person to be able to say, I can get better at it. Give yourself the juice that you need to compete with yourself. And that's what that is. So we don't have to confuse each other on the fact that we like this stuff. We just need it because that's the juice that gets us better. Does that make sense? If I find a guy that really, really likes that, then he's probably a different salesperson. But I do know really good salespeople that know those numbers and track them because they make themselves do it. There's a difference. Okay. Okay, here's where I wanted to go to here today. What if somebody came up to you guys today and said, hey, Sean, I'm going to shadow you. I'm just, don't bother me. I'm not going to bother you. I'm going to just watch you do what you do. That make you uncomfortable? A little nervous?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got to ask yourself, okay, why would that? Because here's where we need to get to. We need to be at a point where if I said, I'm going to go shadow you, Lynn, you're like, yeah, bring it on. Yeah, I'm going to show you exactly what I do. I'm going to show you my systems. I'm going to show you my processes. I'm going to walk you through my day. Watch me do what I do because I've got a standard operating procedure for every damn thing I do. I'd be, wow. Wow. Okay, so it's a blueprint really is what we're talking about. So what I'm suggesting to you guys is shadow yourself. Shadow yourself. Act as if you just are the boss of your business and you're going to shadow your salesperson. You're the CEO, and this CEO is going to shadow this salesperson that you've hired. It happens to be you. And you start writing down, what am I doing? What am I doing? Because some things you're doing are really good. Write those down. Make that your standard operating procedure. These are so good that I need to be doing this every day. I actually should do this every day at 10 o'clock. In fact, I'm going to block out time to do this because this is so important that I should actually do it at 10 o'clock every day. So I'm going to write that down. That's something I'm going to do. Okay, so let's talk about, you got standard, if you want to start thinking this way, standard operating procedures for your business, your blueprint for your business. You can put it in operating systems for almost every aspect of your business, believe it or not. Okay, so what do I do? What do I need systems to put in place to track? Okay, let's talk about that. You can put a system in for lead generation and marketing, social media. You can actually have a system for that. What do I do for lead generation? And what do I do for marketing? And what do I do for social media? And then how do I track it? That's a system. And if you write it in, it becomes a standard operating procedure. And all you've got to do is say, okay, that's what I do. And when somebody comes and shadows you, which is you, the CEO, that shadows you, the salesperson, it's right there. This is my marketing plan. Who did we just see had a marketing plan that tracked and had results that we've been talking about? Jared James. You know why Jared James is so damn cocky about his way he talks? And he says, I can come into your place in your area. I've never been there before, but I'll dominate you in 3 months. Do we know why he thinks that? He has a system. And
Systema.
And he likes the system so much that he knows his results from it. He knows that he can go into that because it's so good, it's so trackable, it's so darn effective that he can conquer somebody in 3 months because he knows what those numbers produce. Okay, so let's talk about prospecting can be a system. Follow-up and conversion can be a system. That definitely can be a system, right? How do you follow up with somebody? How many follow-ups do you do? How many do you convert? Servicing, obviously, that's a big part of our business. How do we service a client? What do we do from point A to point Z with a client? I mean, you can say, well, I like to do this. No, what if it was actually part of your system? What if it was actually written down and this is actually what I do when I have a client? And then your operations goes along with that. The one thing that comes with that is that the sooner you start doing this, you'll feel more comfortable because it creates confidence. And what I've put in here, you will see results in greater clarity of purpose, greater consistency. It would create greater predictability and increase productivity with your business. And really, if you think about it, wouldn't that be great? And wouldn't that be great if we could actually, it makes it more clear. So I'm waking up in the morning, I have a real clear idea of purpose, what I'm doing. I know the consistency is going to be the thing that gets it to, I'm going to do it today, I'm going to do it tomorrow, I'm going to do it the next day, which it becomes predictable, and so do your results. And then you get the increased productivity. So the reason I want to throw this out to you guys like this is that it's not fun. I'm not talking about fun stuff here, creating a system. We're salespeople. That's fun. Going and selling something and converting somebody and negotiating and getting it done like you did, Kay, the other day on Sunday night. You collected all the dots together, boom, it all worked. That's fun. This is a business. Fun stuff is selling. Business is what keeps us rolling, keeps us fueled in the tank, keeps us to where we have a feeling of predictability. And that's kind of where you want to be, I think, right? You want to get to the point where you can play in the fun arena because you're good at sales, but you want the predictability that you can do it all the time. You want the consistency that you can be in that arena and the place you want to be doing sales because you have the system and you're tracking the system and you're looking at the scoreboard and you're seeing in the scoreboard, you're going to reverse engineer it because you know what those numbers mean. Because they go into your standard operating procedure and you can evaluate it. This is totally different than the fun stuff that we usually talk about, which is just sales. This is actually you being a CEO of a business that you're actually growing. I'll tell you something else that's fun that can come with this. If you get and take the time to shadow yourself and come up with your system of what you do, you know something else you can do with it? You can duplicate the damn thing. If you have a system and it's predictable and it creates clarity and you increase productivity with that, what else can you do? You could build by building a organization where everybody does that system. You might want to do that someday, maybe not, but it sure would be nice to have that option. I've gotten so big doing this, I might bring on a buyer agent, a seller agent, or an admin person, or whatever. You can do that because you have a system. And then you say, hey, shadow me, my system. Do what I do. Do what I do. But that's what you want, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And it's there's so many benefits to doing this unfun thing, to be able to do the fun thing.
Do it in the morning, get it done.
Like Lynn says, just eat the frog. Different than what I said, eating the shit sandwich.
Now shit sounds-
Frog's better, right?
Ooh, get it done.
So guys, here's the thing. The reason I'm throwing this out to you today, we're Q1. Q1's done. But doesn't mean it's done for us looking at it. Because like I said, there's some of you that blew out. Q1 did better than the 25% that, you know, you're there for the year. Some of you did about where you want to be, and some of you did a little less than you wanted to be. So all those numbers need to be looked at, because if you really blew it out, how do you stay on pace to that? How do you actually do more of that good stuff? If you did about what you wanted to do, how do you stay consistent on that? And if you did less than you wanted to do, how do I fix that number? What worked and what didn't work? How do I fix the stuff that didn't work to be able to put myself on pace? And I think one of the hacks, going to Joe's home hacks, one of the hacks on this is shadow yourself. Literally shadow yourself for a week. What am I doing? But what did I want to do? What am I doing all day? And then go back to what I need to do to actually grow my business, to create a system that becomes my standard operating procedure. Once you get those money plays, those money actions in place, you'll get addicted to those because they'll make you feel better. When you get the being busy part, you know you're doing that. But there's something wired in our heads that say, it's keeping me busy. I know I should be doing that other thing, but I'm staying busy. I was busy all day. But you also know you didn't hit the money play action items. So, guys, yeah, oh, Brian's popped in here. Already, man. Someone's knocking at the door. Isabel, do me a favor. Who wrote that? I know who wrote it was Paul McCartney, but that is really simple lyrics.
For sure.
All right, guys. Somebody's ringing the bell. Do me a favor, open the door, come in. I'm going to open this back up here, get rid of that. Okay. Okay, guys. So going back to all this that we talked about. You guys, what was that?
Barking. No barking.
Oh. Stan got excited.
Sorry about
So
that.
going, that's good, good, Neil.
Thought you were talking to Brent for a minute.
Yeah,
Another
Sit
cleaning lady's got here.
sit down,
You can
Brett.
stop barking.
Yeah, sit down,
Do
Brett.
you guys, and I apologize for coming in late. I got stuck. I was on a late flight last night, got here, shot up here, and I had to jump on a call and I got late, delayed. But are you guys seeing the pattern? I mean, the pattern of talking about having systems in place for each component of your business. I mean, it's to the point where if you guys become very efficient in your processes, right? Making sure your systems are in place, guys, that gives you guys more flexibility to do what you're supposed to be going out there to do, which is selling real estate, right? We talk about all these things, these theories, these directions, but in the reality of it, or in the thick of it, if you guys don't have your systems in place, it's not going to give you the flexibility to really do what you're supposed to do in this business, which is go out there and sell real estate. We can sit here and educate ourselves until we become masters, right? But if we're not putting it in place, if we're not really taking part and making sure you're setting up and developing those systems, you won't have truly the flexibility, for example, for your real estate business to go out there and do what you're supposed to be doing, which is selling real estate. But more importantly, for marketing, for self-branding, social media, postcards. If I go down the line of just the simplest, most common denominators of our industry, and if you guys don't have a system for those things, or timelines or objectives, you know, you're gonna kind of be going through that vicious cycle of, man, here I go. Okay, what do I gotta do today? Ah, man, you know what? I'm gonna fix, you know, tomorrow I'm gonna do this. Or there's no pattern, there's no schedule. And if there's no schedule, there's no direction, right? You know, everything that Brent preaches about, you know, the systems in Jared James and everything we do, even in my business class, my class, it's important to understand, guys, that we tell you all this so you guys can start making some headway on putting these things in place, so that inevitably it gives you guys the opportunity to go out there and sell real estate. Your system should be kind of pretty much be an auto system, if you will, to an extent, to allow you to go do what you do best.
That's when you know you're on it. And I think here's the thing, that you've always got to trick your brain into doing things that you might not want to do. But here's the thing that I think when you're talking about shadowing yourself, there's a couple of things on that. When you're shadowing yourself, and so I'm the CEO and I'm looking at my salesperson, and my salesperson is me. What do I want my salesperson to be doing? So even if you find yourself into, you can actually start this just by, what do I need to do? What, if I'm looking at me and I'm the CEO looking at the salesperson, what do I need to be doing? And write that down. And the thing that, keep this in mind, because you always have to have a trigger. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? I'm not sure if I like doing this part, but why am I doing it? Go back to, and there was the last thing, it gives you clarity of purpose. It gives you greater consistency. It gives you greater predictability and increased productivity for your business. So those are things that make you do what you might not naturally want to do. Because if you can get to that, that's the habit you want. And that's what you're talking about, Jose. It gets to autopilot then, because your system is now part of you. You are that system. So now when somebody does say, I'm going to shadow you for the day, hell yeah, bring it on. Here's what I do. I do this now, and I do this, and I do this, and here's the reason why I do it, and here's the results I get, and I track it. And your scoreboard's flipped on all the time. It's not flipped on just at the end of the quarter. It's flipped on all day long. And you're keeping score. And see, here's the thing. If you have the ability to create this, you'll thrive on it because you're naturally a competitive person, because you're in sales. You want to look at numbers. But the CEO has to get the numbers from his salesperson, which is you, so that you can get excited about your own numbers. You got to get that. And the only way to get it from is the person that works for you, which is you.
Bring it to a point where it is considered a numbers game, right? You know, in order to, it's that funnel. We always talk about that funnel in this industry. Everything you do up top is to make sure you're funneling the proper prospect into that client portal, right? You want to make sure that information, everything you're throwing out there within your business, that it's going to funnel you prospects, it's going to funnel you leads, and then it's going to turn into actual clients. That's the number one case in point of what we're trying to accomplish. Now, the reality is, what are those things that you're funneling? What are those systems that you're using to funnel those leads, to turn into prospects, to turn into clients? What is it, right? What is it you're doing every week to accomplish that? How are you going each and every day, structuring your schedule and your systems to accommodate that? What are you doing outside of the platform of let's say, you know, your database, your branding, your your postcards? How are you handling all those things, those funnels, right? How are you handling those funnels, and what type of return are you getting on those funnels, and how consistently are you doing those? How consistent are you being with your systems? If I ask you guys right here, how many people have sent, have made contact via phone, text, or otherwise to potential prospects or past clients or friends or anything of that source, right? Your SOI. Who's done that this week already, legitimately? Good, Joe. You see my point, though? If you guys are if we're doing this, let's make an impact and let's start making these things happen so that every time we come into these meetings, we're now seeing productivity, a sense of now you're starting to get engagement. For us, the first step to everything is engagement, right? You're getting your information out there. You're starting to see people now engaging a little bit. Maybe a text comes back to you, say, "Hey, thanks for touching base with me." How do we put that on there? Oh, look at Jamie said, "I did this morning." Way to go, Jamie.
Yeah.
Way to go. That's what our ultimate goal is here, guys. And we're fortunate to have Brian on our call today. And this gentleman's been obviously with the organization for a while. He started the business, and he's been in it for half of 10, whether it's 6, 7 years, somewhere around there. But think about it.
9 years.
9 years, sorry, boss. I knew it was under 10. I knew it was under 10. But he's got a system and he's consistent, right? Whatever that system is, he's consistent with it. So what we need to try to do is literally officiate or referee yourself, right? To stay consistent. We talk about, hey, why don't you guys select your days on when you're going to perhaps make phone calls, when are you going to send out emails, when are you going to send out texts, how are you going to update your social media platforms and past clientele? Have you guys divided your social or your CRMs? Like all that is what basically Jared James comes into any city, and I'm sure he does, and he has, because no one sits there that cocky and has not done that to prove his point.
Right.
He can go to any city and establish a business and be successful in less than 5 months. Or pretty much knock out the competition in less than 5 months.
Yeah.
Those are systems, guys. To what extent and to what extreme do you guys want to carry your business to hold you guys accountable?
I'll leave you with this, guys. The Rick Pitino, who's probably like 70 some odd years old now, but I read his book back in the 90s. And Rick Pitino's coached the NBA. He's coached Kentucky. He's coached at Louisville. He's now at Iona. And you know what he's done at every stop? He's won. He's won. And the reason why, in his book, it was asked to him by the questioner, who do you think was the best college athlete you coached that went to the NBA? He said, well, I've coached a lot of them. And he says, not one damn one of them better than my system.
Oh.
And you know why he says that? Because he's the coach. And he knows if he puts it in his system and they do the full court press and they go that type of speed and his offense, he knows it works. And you can put him at any place, and he's gotten in trouble on some recruiting things here in those later years, but Iona. Anybody know Iona? It's in New York. He goes to Iona and starts winning. And they get into the tournament last year. So it does work. Having a system actually makes it predictable and more productivity. And the one thing that we can always do is talk about the plays that get you into the right systems. And we can do that weekly because we're all talking anyway. Main thing is just to stay on it because then it becomes a habit. All right, guys, anybody have any questions? Has anybody put the Jared James stuff into play yet? Because I know we've all been talking about it, but put the notification on in your system for the MLS, Maris. Let that come to wherever you're trying to conquer and blanket it, and then use the scripts. If one thing you could do different in Q2, try that, because that's something that you can do, you can track, and you can start looking at results from, and then we can continue to talk about it. But I think that's one thing because it's got the scripts. The notification could be put in play, the EDDM can be put in play, and those, then you're starting to shake out some results that you can then track. So anybody who wants to do that, I'm more than happy to help you guys get that set up and work it with Homestead or USA Mortgage or New American Funding. All those people have set up our EDM to make that work.
Also, just a quick reminder, next Tuesday, we have some panelists coming in from out of town that Remax is actually bringing in. You guys all should have received an email. If you haven't, I'm looking for mine right now because they actually.
I don't think I.
Vegas.
Let me hold on one
That's a
second.
guy
Let
from
me.
Mississippi.
Well.
That's who that is.
Why am I not finding it?
I don't think I have.
No, I received an email. Let me, hold on a second.
That's who was on the.
Yeah, and so so just so you guys know, one of the guys that's gonna be on the panel here that's coming from Nashville, he's the #2 real estate agent in the world.
Whoa.
Right under the #1 real estate agent in the world, which is Gary Ashton, who did 1.75 billion dollars in sales last year in Nashville. I can't even wrap my head around that number yet, guys. Like I keep saying it, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Let me find it real quick. I'm gonna give you the details.
What kind of houses was he selling?
I don't know.
The big kind.
Yeah, the office buildings and corporation stuff. Wow.
Yeah, it is next Tuesday. We have it. Guys, I'll make sure to get it out to you guys. I'll have Kristen look it up and get you guys this information. I highly recommend you guys registering for that event. There's going to be quite a few agents out of our market there to be a great way to really listen to some outside. Hopefully it should be on the calendar.
Yeah, it's 9:30 in Marriott West. On the calendar, I just reposted it to Facebook. I did send the link out a couple weeks ago to register.
There you go.
To everybody, so yeah.
Awesome.
Here we are.
So, and go ahead, Kay, you were saying it just for a quick overview here. It's 9:30 to noon
Yeah, it's
at the Marriott.
Marriott West
Street Court,
Chesterfield.
Chesterfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, look into that, guys. I highly recommend it. We're gonna be there. I'm gonna be there. It'd be nice to really get a good, outside perspective of what other people do in their markets to be successful. Cool.
Thanks, everybody, for being on. Have a good rest of your week.
Hi, guys.
Bye.
Brent, thank you,
Hasta la
Jose.
vista.
Thank you.
See you.